Okay, so our character is bound. So we kind of have that step kind of completed. Now we're gonna make sure that the joints are controlling what they're supposed to be controlling. Right now we have a lot of distortion that is gonna be happening. As we saw in the last video, yeah, when we move around pieces of our character, it's going to there's going to be a lot of like oddness happening where um, the joints are influencing things that you wouldn't necessarily expect it to influence. Yeah, so we're getting a lot of distortion here. So our next step is going to be making sure that like all of these weird things that are happening are uh, pretty much taken care of. Yeah, so here we have a very strange, kind of almost horrific kind of imagery. Yeah, that's happening over here. Okay, so we're gonna kind of clean that up. All right. Now, first of all, we're going to make sure that our character is actually still in our default pose. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the root joint, right click, and choose the assume preferred angle. That'll get us back to the original. The other thing I'm going to have you folks do is make sure that we're not looking at our texture. Our textures probably look awesome, but one of the issues that's going to pop up here is that you are going to maybe have a hard time seeing like your individual details. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is in the perspective views, I'm going to ask you to press the 5 key. Yeah, and this way we can kind of like more clearly see the joints. And also we're going to go into shading, and we're going to choose the wireframe on shaded option. That way we can kind of see the bend points and stuff like that. Okay, this is really going to help us when we're figuring out, okay, what parts are controlling what. Yeah, all right. So I think the main thing that we're gonna work on for now is gonna be the midsection over here. If you notice, when you do a rotation, the midsection pretty much stays okay. Yeah. But when we click on, like, let's say spine one joint, yeah, so if I'm clicking on my spine one joint over here and I'm bending it, you're gonna notice that the midsection starts to deform. Yeah, this area over here. Yeah, so we're gonna have to really like kind of make sure that it's not being influenced by anything but the root joint. Yeah, so I'm gonna click on this midsection. I'm then gonna go up into my skin menu, and we're gonna choose the box next to paint skin weights. Yeah, so we're gonna go skin and then click on the box next to paint skin weights. Yeah, and we're gonna have this wonderful tool will pop up. Let me make sure that it's as fully in screen as possible. Yeah, and what you're gonna see here is a list of influences. Yeah, so if you take a look at your root joint, you'll notice that it has a little bit of influence on here. Anything that is white means that is partially influenced. Oh, sorry, anything that's fully white is going to be 100% influence. If it's like a little bit gray, that means that it has some partial influence. As it gets further into the darker gray, that means like a joint has, whatever joint is selected has a little bit, has a lot less influence. And then if you see something that's completely black, that means that specific joint that's selected in this list has zero influence whatsoever. Yeah, so we can kind of take a look at how this breaks down. So if I click on the left hip joint, you'll notice that this joint right here kind of seems like it's influencing that midsection. Yeah. If you take a look at the left knee, okay, left knee is far enough away where it kind of almost doesn't have any kind of effect on anything. Yeah. Okay, and then we can also check your spine joint. Your spine joint, remember when we bent it, it kind of like took the midsection and it deformed it, right? So you'll notice like this gray area, yeah, that's pretty much saying that, okay, it does have an influence, yeah. Okay, now what we're gonna do here with the root joint is right now it's like it's mostly influenced by the root joint. But if you notice, there's a lot of like just gray happening. Yeah, we actually want this to be fully white. Yeah, so we want this to be fully white because we only want the root joint to control it, and we want it to never really change its deform its shape. Yeah, so to make sure it does that, what I'm going to do is again in the influence um in this the tool settings, yeah, for the paint skin weights, I'm going to make sure root joint is selected. I'm also going to do a check my paint operations. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it at replace. Yeah, so we'll keep it at replace. Okay, as far as the value goes, okay, we can actually paint at different values. We're gonna put it at 100%. Yeah, so if you can put this at 1, also double check to make sure your opacity is set at 1. Yeah, so these two are really set. Okay, and then all we're gonna do here is, yeah, click on the flood button. Because the value is already set at 1, what will happen is this will cause the midsection to turn entirely white, which means that the root joint is 100% in control of that. Yeah, so if you can go ahead and click on the flood right over there. Okay, and then here's our white. Okay, everything should be white over here. Okay, and we're gonna test it now. So if you can go and press Q. Yep. We're gonna go and find your root joint here, and then yeah, it'll still, yeah, the whole thing will move. Okay, but the key, right? If you go to your spine joint and you bend it, okay, does it affect that area? Not at all. Yeah, so this is gonna make a lot more sense. Yeah. Now everything else is still kind of wiggly. Yeah, but that is not being affected. Okay. Also, when we bring out the arm, you're gonna notice the arm is still kind of parts joints in the arm are still affecting parts of the body and the leg and so on, but it's not affecting that midsection. Yeah, so mission accomplished there. Okay, now we have a couple places that we're going to be doing this exact same thing to. So we're going to jump to next to the neck joint. So I'm going to click on the neck joint over here. We're going to go back to skin, paint skin weights, click on the square. Okay, and then if you notice the list here has shrunk a bit. Yeah. So we do have our neck joint. Yeah. If you notice, these are all the joints that have an influence on the head. Versus the midsection, it's a lot smaller list. Yeah. So it's a lot smaller list. Okay. But remember, when we're rotating the neck, we want to make sure that it doesn't start deforming. Yeah. It should. And then when it goes side side, shouldn't be doing any of that weird like mushiness. So we're gonna tell the neck joint to be 100% in control over here. Yeah. So skin, yeah. Paint skin weights, yeah. Square, neck joint. I'm gonna double check, yeah. Opacity at 1, value still at 1, and then I'm gonna do a flood. Yeah. So I'm gonna flood that one. Okay. And then what should happen here for this one, yeah. So again, skin, sorry, I didn't have the head selected. I only had the joint selected. So I'm going to select that skin, um, paint skin weights tool in the settings. Okay, and then when I do my flood, this should turn 100% white. Yeah, and then we can do our test. Yeah, so if you if you go and press Q, then select the neck joint. Yeah, so go ahead and select the neck joint. When I go side to side, okay, the head should stay in that position. When I rotate the head, yeah, again, the head stays, yeah, in one piece. Yeah, so it's not gonna start to distort. All right, so these are our two main sections where we're gonna be doing a lot of like making sure that these don't deform. The last bit I believe that we're gonna be concentrating on is gonna be the wrists. Yeah, so we're gonna make sure both of these wrists are both of these hands are connected to their respective wrist joints. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the claw. Again, same setup. Yeah, skin, paint skin weights. Click on the check the square next to that. Okay, double check. Yeah, that your opacity is set at 1s. I'm gonna make sure that the left wrist joint is the one that we're putting fully influence. Yeah. If you take a look at the list, right, left elbow joint has a little bit of influence over there. Left end of claw joint has a lot on here. And then if you look at stuff like the root joint has some effect down over here. It's kind of gray. And the hip joint, yeah, it looks like it also has a little bit of effect on the hand, like that's close by that area. Okay, well, we're going to tell it, right, left wrist joint, make sure that's fully selected, and then do a flood. Okay, and then that'll get this claw to the point where it will only listen to this joint right here. Yeah, so no matter what, yeah, even if we rotate it, the claw will stay and maintain its structural integrity. Yeah. Okay. Same thing with the other side. Yeah. So get your right claw, go to skin, box next to paint skin weights, get the right wrist joint. Okay. This guy should be 100% in charge, so you can go ahead and do a flood. Okay. And then we're pretty set with those pieces. Yeah. Okay. So let's check. Yep. Okay, those are all the main pieces that we're gonna make sure pretty much stay solid, yeah, and don't really change up. Okay, now we're also gonna do a few more things here. So we're gonna kind of make sure that our body doesn't like deform too much. Yeah. Now if you notice as I'm moving this, yeah, our arm is still kind of doing some crazy stuff. Okay, now this is where things are going to diverge a little bit. So I'm going to give you folks a few options. Now, there are two ways we can kind of bind the rest of the pieces that have not been completely paint weighted exactly in its final form. Yeah. So, for example, our arms, we haven't done any paint weights yet. Also for the torso and the two legs. Yeah. And the reason why we haven't gone in and did that yet is because we are gonna have like two different options on how we approach this. Yeah, one can be the really traditional way where we just have a joint that kind of controls the entirety of the body, also the entirety of the arm and the entirety of the leg. Yeah, so there isn't gonna be any bend in any of those parts. And that will kind of fall more in line with what you would expect from a Lego toy. Like you can rotate all of the pieces around, but obviously you can't bend the character at the elbow. You can't have it like do a knee bend. Yeah. Even if you look at something like the Lego Movie or and that franchise, you'll notice that they don't have any bend points. Yeah. They just do a really good job of kind of moving around with what they have to recreate like some of those more like detailed movements that you would expect to see in like more complicated like characters like somebody from Pixar or the Spider Verse or whatever. Yeah. All right. So here's going to be our options. The first style is going to be pretty straightforward, and this is where we don't do any kind of extra bends. So I'm gonna kind of run down the line with that. So we'll start with the upper torso. This will feel very familiar. I'm gonna go back to my skin menu and then go back to the box next to paint skin weights. So again, skin menu and then the square next to paint skin weights. Over here, I'm gonna make sure that this is solely controlled by the first spine. So I'm gonna go to the spine one joint, and you'll notice that it does have an effect, but again, any of the black means that like it's highly influenced by other joints around it. Yeah, besides the spine one joint. To make sure that it is only the spine one joint, I'm going to click on that in my tool settings for my paint skin weights tool, and then I'm also going to do my flood. Yeah, right over there. Okay, and then now spine one is the only thing that has any kind of influence on this particular section. Yeah, so even if I click through, yeah, only spine one's the one. All right, we're going to repeat that process. So for the arm as well, and again, remember this is for if we just want to have your character be react like the toy. So we're going to go skin, paint skin weights tool. Again, I'm going to make sure that I'm at this shoulder, so that should be my left shoulder joint. You folks can probably see the importance of naming all of your joints, yeah? If you just had a whole bunch of joint numbers over here, it would get a little bit frustrating, figure out which is which, yep. And then once again, our opacity's at 1, value's at 1. We're going to do a flood, and this now belongs 100% to that left shoulder. We can repeat that process for the right shoulder, of course. Yeah, so skin, paint skin weights. Yeah, check your settings. This time we want that right shoulder. Looks like it had a lot of influence. Yeah, but started to taper off near the elbow. But no, we're gonna flood that one. Okay, and then we're on to the legs. Exact same thing. Yeah, skin, paint skin weights. Make sure that this is going to the left hip joint. Flood that. And then last but not least, we're going to go to the right leg, skin, paint skin weights tool, and then go and choose the right hip joint and then do a flood. Yeah, so that style is going to allow us to like pretty much move things around, and like this is probably going to be enough to create a solid animation from already. Yeah, so I'm kind of testing everything, making sure there's no weird movements that occur over here, but it looks pretty damn good. So yeah, we should be all right. Yeah. Yeah, so looks like that's all the main portions, and then we're just gonna double check at the spine one joint. Yeah, so it's doing what we're expecting it to do. All right, now here's where we're gonna diverge a little bit, and I'll kind of get into a little bit of how would you like start to create bend points within a surface. Yeah, so right now we do have an elbow joint over here. Yeah, we could do bends over there. We do have another spine 2 joint over here, so we could do another bend over there. And then we also have our knee joints and our ankle joints. Yeah, those are also, and I believe like what is this? Is this a toe joint? Foot joint, yeah, foot joint. That's also a spot that we could actually turn into a bend point as well. Okay, so we'll kind of we'll kind of like weigh our options in the next video.